And I said, what does that mean? He said, it means that you probably have about 6 months to live. Is that they would let their business consume their life. People get caught up in this growth mindset there's a positive way to the growth mindset, but there's also a negative where it's like never enough. Listen to his lessons about how wealthy people truly operate.
Hi, I'm George Pino, the CEO of Commercial Brokers International, and thanks for joining us today. Today's guest is Rich Fettke. He is a licensed real estate broker, active investor, and co-founder of RealWealth, a real estate investment group that's helped over 60,000 people and with members, over 60,000 members, improve their financial intelligence, secure passive income, and obtain financial freedom. Um, Rich, one of the things I really like about speaking with investors and people that are coaching with investors as well is, it ties into a lot of our audience as well when it's because it's really about growing, and your books are, to be frank with you, I think they're probably less about investing, so to speak, specifically, more
Mm-hmm.
about the concept and the thought and your own vision mentality of what you're investing for. But I think that can apply not just to investments, but also for any business.
Yeah.
And so I think, you got some great books, especially the newest one, I think just came out this year. And I see it right behind your shoulder, Scaling Smart,
Yep. Thanks to Bigger
which
Pockets
is,
for the big book cover.
yeah, and I think that's one of the key takeaways probably in that book is that you're talking a little bit about scaling versus growth,
Yeah.
and I think people have that misconception of as you're growing, are you really scaling? And I think you know where do you see that differentiation, or how do you see that playing about in a high level?
Yeah, my wife and I own our business together. We run it together. We have since 2003, so 21 years now, which is kind of blows my mind. And what we've seen in our own business and our colleagues is that people get caught up in this growth mindset there's a positive way to the growth mindset, but there's also a negative where it's like never enough. And so the difference I see between growth and scaling is growth is where you're throwing more resources toward expanding your business or expanding your portfolio. So you're throwing more money at it, more people at it, hiring more people. And so as you continue to grow, trying to grow your revenue or cash flow, sometimes you got to step back and take a look and say, am I increasing my profitability? And so often with growth, you don't get that. Scaling's a little different, or it's a lot different, where with scaling, what you're doing is you're looking at how can I increase my revenue without expanding my resources at the same time at the same rate. So I don't want to be spending more money to increase my revenue. I maybe a little bit, but it's really looking at what's your return on investment. So that's the big difference. And we've seen so many people throw so much money at trying to grow their business that they end up growing themselves broke. It's sad, and they get upside down. They get negative, and it's why more than half of businesses fail in their first 3 years. It's really sad to see. So with Scaling Smart, it was all about that. How can we stop people from this trap of what we call bigorexia, kind of like the
Mhm.
brother to anorexia with eating, but that term came from when I used to be a competitive bodybuilder back in the 80s.
Okay.
And, that whole thing about you never feel big enough. You look at these bodybuilders and you think that they're all, big egos. So you think they're greater than anything. They're mirror on the wall, that's what they're all about. But really, they are usually a little more soft-hearted and they don't feel big enough. So you'll see bodybuilders covering up with big loose sweatshirts and sweats and all this to try to hide their perceived lack of size. And the reason that carries over to business is Kathy and I see it all the time at conferences. So many people don't feel like enough. The conversation, some of these conferences, real estate investing is, oh, how many doors do you have? Or what's your assets under management, something like that. And they start comparing themselves to others. They don't feel like enough. And they start saying, like, I got to grow, I got to be there. And so it's really got to step back and say, like, how can I scale to that, not spend a ton more money, but get to that, but also for the sake of what? So it is like you said, mindset about why. Why do you want to scale? You got to start there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that we're actually seeing that I think across the board a little bit more so this in this past year. P&E companies that were investing in quite a bit. It's the grow at all cost model. Just
Right.
keep throwing money at it and keep growing and keep growing. Now we're seeing those companies actually either faltering or having issues potentially, and we're seeing that the P&E companies are actually pushing back on the grow, 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 but rather grow wisely, grow smartly.
That's it exactly.
And
Yep, sustainable growth is the key.
sustainable both growth, absolutely. And I think, a good way to think about it is, like you said, growth is you're just growing. You may be growing in size, but your profitability with the cost and expenses and what you're doing may not necessarily be changing. But scalability, I think the best word for that is probably efficiencies. You're looking for efficiencies that you can incorporate, make sure you're not cannibalizing if you're expanding into certain markets on the retail side or however you do it, or even on the investment side. Obviously, you don't want to necessarily sink all your eggs into one basket or into one specific geographic or asset class necessarily either.
Right.
I think it has a lot of uh, uses and ability, across the board, whether it's a business or investments. Um, what about, one of the other things I like really is that a lot of investors don't talk about this. And again, I think this is also key to not just investments, but in business in general. And that's really aligning your professional and your personal visions to scale that growth. Now, how does a personal side? Because I know a lot of people, especially the business guys out there, are going to come in and say, you know what? Grow, grow, grow. That's what it, like you said, they're chasing the growth. They're chasing the big side of it, but they're not really incorporating their personal side. How do you see that helping, or why is it so important?
I mean, it comes back to that statement of, the questions for the sake of what? Years ago, I sold my health club in Boston area, moved out to California, and then I had earned my business degree. And so I decided to focus on that. And I went through coach training certification. This is back in 1996 when people didn't know what a coach was, or they thought it was, people would say, "What sport do you coach?" But I got involved in that
Yeah.
industry early. And so before we started our company, Real Wealth, I was a business coach and speaker and worked with a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs. And one of the things that I saw was that they would let their business consume their life, and they would try to design their business around their life instead of designing their life around their business. And it's like you want to first design your life and think about, what do I want here? And that's the trap. So many people get sucked into that and then they throw things all out of whack. And it's like, what's the purpose for your business, or what's the purpose for your portfolio? Why are you investing in real estate? It's why we call our company Real Wealth, because we wanted it to be not just about wealth, not just about money, 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 which is very important, but it's also being able to live life on your own terms, to design your life the way you want. So it's coming from that first, whether it's your business, getting clear on what's your personal vision. Like, how do you want your life to be in 5 years, in 10 years? And then how are you going to fund that lifestyle? And then you can come back and say, how do I fund it? How can I grow my business to that? But also, how do I want my life to be from now until then? So you don't go into the 80-hour work weeks. You get more effective and more focused on what really matters in growing your business or your portfolio. And so it's starting there. It's starting with your own personal vision about what you really want. And it sounds like a no-brainer, right? Like we should do that, but so many people don't. I saw it with my coaching clients. They would get so sucked in our first coaching session. I would pull out a life wheel that had 10 major areas of their life. And I'd say, I want to get an idea of where you are in your life. I want you to rate each of these 10 areas of your life, 0 to 10. And they would say, "Well, I don't get this. I'm hired you to increase my profits or build my business." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's really cool. We're definitely going to focus on that, increasing your wealth. But do you realize if you don't take care of this area of your life called your relationship, that you could lose 50% of those assets, right? And if you don't take care of this area of your life called health, you could lose 100% of those assets." So it's so important to step back and say, how do you want your life to be first? And then say, how do I design my business around that? What's the vision for my business that can help me get to the life I want?
And I think that is extremely key overall and across the board when it comes to both investing as well as even on the brokerage side of life. We're both brokers here, and I talked about that a lot with our agents. Really, like, what are you looking to accomplish? What are you looking to do? How do you want to design that? But also taking into account, depending on what part of life you are, things change. Time was not as valuable to me when I was 22. Um, so I was happy to work 15, 16 hours a day, 17 hours a day sometimes, at 22, 23. But, with children and family now, my time's a little bit more valuable.
Yeah.
And
And
so
you never know when the end's going to be. It's like
exactly.
when what started our business back in 2003, I had signed a book deal with Simon and Schuster. Everything was going amazing. And then I was diagnosed with melanoma, skin cancer. And the doctor asked me to get a scan to make sure it hadn't spread. They did the surgeries to remove it from my skin, and they saw four masses on my liver. And after multiple tests, ended up meeting with an oncologist. And he said, "Yeah, it looks like this has spread to your liver." And I said, "What does that mean?" He said, "It means that you probably have about 6 months to live."
Mm,
So, I was a young dad. I had a 3-year-old daughter, a 7-year-old daughter, and it rocked my world. But in that time of waiting for my next pet, waiting for a PET scan, which told me that I was cancer free, it was a false diagnosis. But in the couple months of waiting for that test, I wasn't sure if I was going to be around, and that's what actually got my wife Kathy to get into real estate investing, because she needed to find a way. She was a stay-at-home mom. She needed to find a way to make an income.
yep,
Um,
passive income,
but
sure.
it really rocked our world. So the thing is, it's like it's so easy for business owners or investors to say, like, well, I'm just going to grind now. I'm going to throw my life out of balance. I'm just going to put this grind and focus now so I can get there. But the thing is, it's like you don't know if your next breath is your last. And
Mhm.
my lesson from that was, because I had been working with a coach myself, because I was a coach and I was designing my life first. Um, I had created time and space to be able to be with the ones I loved, do what I wanted. So I was like, and I remember saying to my wife, I was like, if this is the end, I'm actually grateful for the last 10 years because I really lived my life. And so it's like you just never know. So I'm pretty passionate about that one, as you can tell. It's
No,
like, don't put
and
it off.
I can see the passion. I love it. I actually had a similar situation a few years back.
Oh, wow.
With myself. That was a little bit of a health scare that, and but everything okay for the most part now. Just follow up and everything else.
Excellent.
But
Excellent.
one of the things I noticed in from your story, and a couple things I want to ask a little bit about is, um, when it comes to, a lot of times those times in our life that we think are some of the most turbulent, or as you say, rocked your world, it
Yeah,
also probably gave you quite a bit of clarity and what you actually was important and what you wanted to do and where it was. A lot of self-reflection that happens
totally.
in those situations. And I can see that really played a very impactful part of your life. And it goes back to, part of what I used to say, and what growing up, what I used to hear a lot, not necessarily from my parents, but just in general, it was, there are two ways to get rich in the world: make more money or want less. And then when you
That's true.
realize the physical stuff isn't what makes you happy, that's when you
100%.
actually sit there like, well, what are we going to do? The physical, the money. When it comes for me, when it comes for building stuff, when it comes for building, it's the money is a benefit. It's a side benefit that allows me the freedom to do things that I really would rather be doing, so to speak.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole premise of the book, The Wise Investor. It's a parable, so it's a story about this 40-something family man who is struggling so much and working so hard that he doesn't have time for his wife or his kids or even his own life. And then he meets a wise mentor who guides him and teaches him what real wealth really is.
Mhm.
So I wrote that book to be an inspiration to people, to kind of like shake them a little bit, to be like, hey, you got to step back, even, listen to the lessons of this wise mentor who is very successful financially, but also listen to his lessons about how wealthy people truly operate.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think that's a really big key takeaway because I think a lot of people lose focus a lot on what's happening when they're right in the middle of doing it and building it or trying to, and they lose focus as to why they actually did it or doing this in the first place.
Hmm.
And they're focused more on the reward versus the conclusion or the actual goal, so to speak.
Yeah.
And and that boils down to and one of the last topics a little bit here want to talk about is and I think that ties very closely in with the book that you just mentioned, The Wise Investor, and that is perception. It's for me, and I do some training classes and training with a lot of agents, but a lot of it for me is perception. It's showing the understanding the perception of what you're trying to accomplish, but really reflecting on that. And I try and teach that a lot to all the agents coming back as far as, you know, perception can be reality and
Hmm.
it works both ways. How people perceive you, but more importantly, how do you perceive yourself? Because that's going to affect how you're going to present yourself. And,
100%.
I think with the book itself, when you're saying, um, the time is one of your most valuable assets. We kind of went over that, but how can someone? What are some key, without giving away the whole thing, but how would you recommend someone taking the first steps to kind of change their limited beliefs or perceptions? How to go about that? How to actually create that as part of your daily life, so to speak, whether it's
Yeah, it's so
personal
important.
level or business level?
Yeah, daily life is exactly it. It's like what you just said, your perception creates your reality. Like what we focus on becomes who we are. So I think it's that is it is that, you hear it from all different sources. I mean, the Stoics were saying this 2000 years ago. It's like it's a universal truth.
Yeah.
And I really think it comes down to that self-esteem is esteem that you earn for yourself. So when you do what you say you're going to do, when you say this is who I want to be, and then you follow through on that and you do what you say you're going to do, you're like, oh yeah, that's like me, that's the way I operate, and you start sending this message to yourself of that's who you are, and your confidence builds, your self-esteem builds, and it really comes down to you'll do hard things. It's like it's not easy, but it doesn't have to be a struggle. It can be a challenge. So I really think it's about number one, getting clear on who is it that you want to be. One of the things I used to have my coaching clients do all the time was write their own eulogy because it really gets clarity about who's the person that you want to become. If you were at your own funeral and someone was reading your eulogy, what would you want them to say about you? And it can really drive our daily actions, our daily behaviors. If you have things in there about being healthy, then you come back and you say, what do I need to do on a regular basis to be healthy? How do I want to eat? How do I want to work out? If it comes down to I want to be a more loving, kind, understanding person, it's like, how can you work on that every day? Maybe it's daily meditation. Maybe it's just practicing that, being curious, asking questions instead of trying to be right and prove yourself. So I think it comes down to that. It comes
Mhm.
back to number one, getting clear on who's the person that you want to become. And actually, a great way to do that, here's a free resource for you. In the book, in The Wise Investor, the mentor takes Ryan, who's the protagonist in the book, he takes him through this exercise that I've taken my coaching clients through for years. It's called Your Future Self. And it's this exercise. If people go to realwealth.com/grow, so realwealth.com/grow, that's the landing page for the book. It's where all the free resources are for the book. You don't have to give your email or anything. And on that page, you'll find this 10-minute future self. It's basically just a visualization. And it's something I worked on over the years. Sometimes I do opening keynotes at conferences doing this, but it will actually guide you through this process. You close your eyes and you actually get to go 10 years into the future and you get to meet you. You get to
Mhm.
meet your future self. You get to see where they're living. You get to go into their house. You get to ask them questions. And it can be very eye-opening. I do it probably once a week at a minimum. I
Mhm.
take this little mental journey to meet my future self 10 years in the future. And ask him whatever questions I need. And all we're doing really is we're just tapping into that subconscious that we know
Mhm.
is there. It's like kind of our wise self without that little negative gremlin that tells us, oh, you can't do that or you're not enough or whatever it is. So I highly recommend it, doing the future
It's
self.
visualizing the path to achieve what you realize what you now want to be or goals.
What's really important to you. Yeah, just
And
like Olympic athletes do or
yep,
anyone,
yep.
it's
Yeah,
like it's
I
key.
always talk about that when we're talking about goals. You start with the big goal or what's the motivation factor,
Totally.
and then work your way back and figure out down to the daily granular, how am I going to get there? What's my path?
Hmm.
And how am I going to go down that path? But also understanding that you have to self-reflect because, like anything, that path may change. And
Yeah.
so you want to make sure that you're still on this right path, on the same path as you're moving forward. So, I completely get that and understand that. And, I do want to, I promised you to keep this about 20 minutes or so, and that we're hitting there right now, but there's a lot of good information here. And, I'd love to maybe have a follow-up conversation with you and another interview a little bit later and kind of delve into a little bit more about both on the personal level. I'd love to hear your own personal path a little bit more so. And also, just let's see where it goes in the future. Who knows
I like it.
how we go? So
Sounds
I
good.
appreciate you. All of Rich's contact information is below here as well. You can always DM and reach out to us. We'll make sure that we put you in contact with that or anything else. And if you have any questions, feel free to also reach out there. And if you like what you've heard, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you so much, Rich, and look forward to the next time.
Thanks, George.